Okay. Mr. Vasquez, will be recognized for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member, and thank you, Chief Moore, for being here today. Today, we are experiencing another historic fire in near Las Vegas, New Mexico, the Las Tuces fire. I represent the 2nd District, home to the beautiful Lincoln, Gila, Cibola, and Coronado National Forest, 4 of 6 of New Mexico's national forests. And as we enter wildfire season once again, it's imperative that my constituents and our national forests are protected. Chief, you alluded to this earlier, but the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire, one of the largest in state history, in fact, combined with the Black Fire in my district and the Gila, over 700,000 acres, are the 2 largest fires in our state's history. And tragically, the Calf Canyon Hermit's Peak fire, as you know, was caused by the U.S. Forest Service through a prescribed burn. Now, this has caused a lot of distrust in the federal government, particularly in our Hispanic land-grant communities in the north, and our ability to trust the federal government to manage fire and forest in our state. We have to change that. Now, Chief, I sent you a letter on March 1st asking for a response, along with Representative Teresa Leger Fernandez, who represents the 3rd District in New Mexico, asking specifically what changes to your prescribed burn program were going to take place after displacing more than 400 New Mexicans from their homes and causing one of the largest wildfires in New Mexico's history. I've yet to hear from your agency, have yet to have a response on that. Now, you mentioned earlier that 1/16% of a chance that a prescribed fire goes in a way that you'd not like it to go. For us, that 1/16% means the loss of homes, of tradition, of culture, of grazing allotments, and so much more. So I would argue that there is no room for error in your prescribed burn program. Chief Moore, I would like to have, perhaps submitted for the record, but also here in this committee, an answer to that question. How has the Forest Service changed its prescribed burn program since that Hermit's Peak and Calf Canyon fire?
So I'll give you a response, and I'll follow up with you on some very specifics on what we're planning to do with that. But in general, we're looking at making sure that before any fire starts, that it has the latest technology. It also having real-time decision-making ability. You know, in the past, when you look at burn plans, for an example, it could be based on information that was made a week ago. Now we're requiring them to make the decision on the day of the burn so that you have the latest information. Also looking at things like portable weather stations rather than looking at large weather stations that covers a large area. And also using local knowledge. What we recognize is that people that are local in those communities understand the winds. They understand how fire behaves when it hits the landscape. And so now we are incorporating local knowledge into the decisions that we make, which we had not to the degree that we needed to in the past.
Thank you, Chief. And I agree that local knowledge is incredibly important. In fact, the constituents in my state I've spoken to have all said the Forest Service had to be crazy to have a prescribed burn on that particular day. And that is very disappointing because, as I mentioned before, more than 400 New Mexicans lost everything, including their homes. Now, we are facing the next phase of this tragedy, which is the compensation from FEMA. An investigation from ProPublica and Source New Mexico found that of the 140 households eligible for FEMA housing, only 13 had been awarded. That's after 400 days of this fire. Chief, do you agree that this is an unacceptable result following a catastrophic fire caused by the federal government?
Congressman, I'm not familiar with the data that you have just talked about, but I'm always interested in working with you. That seems like that's a FEMA question that you're asked, but
Well, Chief, let me stop you there. And I'm glad that you said that because this is where the disconnect comes from. And this is where I believe the distrust from constituents in New Mexico comes from. There's a disconnect here between federal agencies. If one federal agency causes a catastrophic fire that causes 400 people to lose their home and says now it's FEMA's problem, then people, rightfully so, are not going to have a trust in government. So how can the Forest Service work more closely with FEMA, which to this day has not awarded a single dollar, 400 days after this fire, to ensure that a problem caused by the federal government is fixed by the federal government? I understand it's not your jurisdiction, but how would you respond to those concerns?
Well, I respond by saying I understand the frustration in how different agencies within the federal government operate. I would also ask you to be understanding of I don't know what FEMA's rules are since I don't work for them, and that's not put off. I simply don't know what FEMA's rules are. But I will follow up and provide you with a response. And in terms of your letter that you sent in March, I'll look that up to make sure we are responsive to you.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And my constituents are looking for answers. And if I go to another subcommittee and ask FEMA the same thing, they're going to say, well, it was the Forest Service fault. So as you can understand, there's some real frustration here. And I expect to hear a response from you soon. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. Our hearts go out to you and your constituents down there in that tragic situation that, there's this really strong tension between the great need for more prescribed burn, yet the ability to trust it happening in your backyard under the right conditions. Local knowledge that we need to follow up on that more too, because that's something that would have been extremely helpful in fighting fires that I've had in my neighborhood as well. So look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you, Chairman.